I'm Leon Todd for G66. Welcome to another Tuesday Tone Tip. Today I want to talk about foot switching strategies on the FM3, how the default foot switch layouts work, and how I set up my FM3 to use it live. So let's start by talking about the factory layouts. Before we do, I have my live preset loaded and I've got my PRS single cut plugged straight into the FM3. This preset has 6 scenes and we're going to hear scene 1 to start. Nice and chunky. Now, I've got the factory layouts loaded up. Before we talk about that though, what is a layout? A layout is essentially a preset foot switch configuration. So at the moment, I'm on layout number 1, and layout number 1, as it comes from the factory, lets me select and scroll through presets. So at the moment, I have preset number 2 loaded up. So if I wanted to select preset 3, I just press this button over here. If I then wanted to bank up to a different selection of presets, I can hold down the right foot switch. I can now access preset 4, 5, and 6. For example, pressing that button will load preset 5. I can also bank back down and select my main live preset again. So that's how layout number 1 works, but how do I access the other layouts? For example, it would be really cool if I could have these foot switches assigned as scenes on one layout, effects on another layout, control switches on another layout. This is essentially how the factory layouts work, by the way, but we got to get to them. So we want to get to the master layout, which is like a table of contents. So we do this. Let's hold down the middle foot switch. This will take us to the master layout. And then I have these different layout selections here. Remember, a layout is like a foot switching preset. So I can do this. I can hit scenes. And now I can access scene 1, 2, and 3 in my preset. For example, let's select scene 2, my lead scene. Awesome stuff. Now, at the moment, I've only got access to 3 scenes. And let's go over to FM3 Edit, and I'm going to hit the FC controllers selection here. This will show me, look at this, I've got these 3 foot switches. These represent the 3 physical foot switches on the FM3, but you can see another 9 foot switches grayed out. So what the FM3 actually lets us have is a virtual 12-button pedal board. I can assign all sorts of functions over here. For example, at the moment, this is scene 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the tuner. And in order to access them, I have something called a view. So a view is just like a sub layout. So it's a sub preset of a foot switch preset would be another way to put it. I think of it as like turning a page. And if I want to turn the page to the next scene view, I can hold down this button here. Now I've got access to scenes 4, 5, and 6. If I do it again, I've got scene 7, scene 8, and the tuner, and I can come back down here. For example, if I wanted to select my clean scene here, I get this. Wonderful stuff. What if I selected a particular scene? Let's say I go back and I select my dry scene again, and instead of changing scenes, I wanted to engage different effects on and off. Well, I could navigate to my effects layout. So again, let's hold down the middle button. We'll go to the master layout, and I've got effects available. So let's just say in this particular preset, I just want to use my dry scene for a particular song, and I just want to turn the delay on and off at particular points. Look at this. I've got a delay right here. And again, I can scroll through different views and access more effects. I don't have a lot of effects in this particular preset, but I do have my multi-tap delay engaged over there. The same kind of functionality with views is going to apply to the master layout. If I want to access more layouts, I can press and hold the right or left foot switch. For example, there's a channels layout, there's a looper layout, a per preset layout, and say select the looper, which I actually don't have in this particular preset, but if I did, I could set it up to record play, loop, and I've got all the secondary looper functions available on the other views as well. Again, this is a virtual 12-button pedal board where each button has a tap function and a hold function, so up to 24 functions, which is really, really cool. So that's how I use the factory layouts in there. And to be honest, most of those factory layouts are going to be perfectly fine for just about anyone who wants to just unbox this thing, dial up some presets and go and gig with it. So I've loaded up all my layouts that I use on my FM3, which you can do by going in FM3 edit, and import either a single layout or all the layouts. So it's really easy to back up your layouts and move over to some different layouts if you want to do that, say for a different gig. However, let's talk about how I've got this all organized at the moment, because I will sometimes do gigs with just my FM3. Other times I will use an FM3 and an FC6 connected. So I have a few layouts dedicated for that. But when I play live, most of the time I just use a single preset. So I have changed layout 1 just to be my scenes. So by default, when I turn my FM3 on, I'm going to get the scenes layout in here. It's basically exactly the same as the factory scenes layout. It is just assigned to layout number 1. And what I've done is just purely out of preference, I've gone into FM3 edit, or you can do this from the front panel by going setup, and you can go FC controllers and onboard switches. You can navigate over here to easy mode and say just press a button, and it will show you what you've got loaded up on that particular button, which is kind of cool, but I like to use the editor set and forget that way. So what I've done is I've just gone and changed the ring color. So this is really easy, and it's kind of not a huge thing, but it is a huge thing because you're going to be looking at this thing when you step on it live. So I like yellow, but you can set this to whatever color you like and customize it, which is really cool. Furthermore, if I wanted to change a particular function of a button globally for the layouts, let's navigate to my effects layout over here. Say in this preset, there's no drive block and there's no phaser. What if I wanted, say, my multi-tap delay to be on my main kind of view right here? All I would have to do is click on this particular button. I can set the category to be an effect. The function is going to be on and off, so I'll set it to be bypass. And then I can select, let's select the multi-tap delay right there. Now this particular button is going to turn the multi-tap delay on and off, which is really nice. I can also set a color for that one, depending on what color I like my multi-tap delay to be. Let's say I set it to orange in this particular case, then I can turn it on and off with this button. Very, very straightforward. Now there are press and hold functions on here, and for most of my layouts I have left these as they come from the factory. For example, I like having the hold function on the outer foot switches to be that view feature, so I can kind of page through my various layouts, but I don't have to have it like that. For example, I'm going to navigate to layout number, where is it, number 2, I think. So this is my perform layout, and this is where my FM3 lives when I play live. So when I play live, I basically just need 4 particular scenes. I need the tap tempo and I need the tuner function. So what I've done is I've set foot switch number 1 so that when I tap it, I select scene number 1, but when I hold it, I select scene number 2. This is kind of cool. This isn't turning a view anymore. This is a totally different function. And I have a similar functionality for foot switch number 3. I have a rhythmic delay scene, and when I tap and hold that one, I will bring up a lo-fi scene that I use for kind of little intros and things like that. I can go back to my dry scene. And for playing live, I like all my delays to be timed, so I can tap in the tempo here. And if I press and hold this one, I can access the tuner. That does everything that I need to do live. Now, sometimes, like if I'm doing a studio session or something like that, I like to have all of my kind of options in front of me. So I do have a couple of layouts over here, which well, actually there's one dedicated layout called the OMG9 layout, which isn't a factory layout, but you can go and download this from the forum. And what this lets us do is if we're using an FC6 controller together with the FM3, I can set each of these particular buttons here to bring up, say, the scenes layout on my FC6 without changing these buttons. So this kind of lives again as like a master table of contents. And if I press the effects layout over here, my FC6 is going to bring up a dedicated effects layout. If I press the scenes, it's going to bring up a dedicated scenes layout. This is a really cool piece of functionality that makes the FM3 and the FC6 together so powerful and easy to use. I do have a separate video on this on my channel though. So like I said, I kind of live on the perform layout. Let's say though I wanted to do a particular gig where I need that perform layout, but you know, I don't need scene 3 and scene 4. I need some other function, but I don't want to change my foot switching globally. I can bring up a per preset foot switch. So let's navigate to the particular view I want here on my perform layout. So let's say I don't need these particular buttons here, and I can go to the per preset foot switches over here. Let's do this. We want the definitions, and I've already got a couple of per preset definitions in here. And let's do this. Let's start a new one. I'm going to use per preset number 4 to demonstrate this. Let's say the tap function, I want to activate a control switch. I'm going to set this right here. I'm going to have the control switch as a latching control switch. So let's change that there. But let's say now I want the hold function to be, I don't know, an effect or something like that. So we're going to select effect, and I'm going to make it change, well, maybe not the bypass state. Let's do this. Let's have it change the channel in the amp block, which is kind of cool. So I can set this to increment the channel in the amp block, which is really nice. There's a whole bunch of other functions in here. I can toggle between 2 channels. Let's do the channel toggle because this one's nice and easy. I can have my primary channel as channel A and my secondary channel as channel B. So when I press and hold that foot switch, once I assign it, it's going to go from my main dirty amp to my clean amp, which is kind of cool. But I do need to assign this now. So let's do this. Let's go back to FC controllers, and let's take this particular button. I'm going to set it as a per preset override, per preset number 4. You can see now, if I press this one, I've got a control switch that I can activate, which should activate the amp boost. And then if I press and hold it, it's going to toggle my amp channel to channel B. The cool thing about this is that particular foot switch assignment only lives with this preset. If I move to another preset, which I'm just going to do manually right here, you can see that my perform layout goes back to that global functionality where I have scene 1 and scene 2 and scene 3 and scene 4. So my advice would be either just live with the factory layouts or tweak them so that you have what you want. For example, on the effects layout, if you're somebody who, you know, you're like me, you use the multi-delay and the delay a lot, it kind of makes sense to have them on view number 1. You might want to have this as a drive, a rotary, and a reverb if you prefer, if you use those effects all the time. You can do that, and then that's kind of your global layout sorted for most of your presets. And then if you just say don't need a rotary in one preset, you need, like, I don't know, a phaser or something like that, you can use a per preset assignment instead of a global assignment, and it can override your global assignment just for that particular preset, and then you're good to go. It's not ruining all your layouts on all your other presets. So that's a very brief overview of how layouts and views work on the FM3 and how you can go about assigning them. As we saw, you know, there are so many functions in just the effect category. You can set it as bypass, select, toggle, or increment. There's utilities like the ability to select, say, the tuner or the tap tempo. You can increment the amp level. You can have a reveal and hold function. You know, there's presets, there's banks, there's per preset foot switches, there's looper functions, control switches. Just about everything you can do on the FM3, you can assign somewhere in a layout and have a foot switch to get there. Even though there are only 3 physical foot switches, in reality, we kind of have this 8x12 virtual pedal board. It's pretty amazing. And then if you pair it with an FC6 or an FC12, you have even more functionality. If you have any specific questions related to this video, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I'll see you all next week for another Tuesday Tone Tip. Thanks so much for watching.